That year, the great army with the number of up to millions of people, going wherever the earth moved there was ambitious to conquer the whole of Greece. At that time, King Ba Tung was the first judge to lead the Death Corps to fight with 300 warriors of King Lu Nai from Bakata at the Blood Gate that opened the road to directly attack Greece. In the other direction, the fleet of warships that filled the whole sea of the Persian army quickly approached the Greek ports, creating a sinister pincer position. Seeing that the war was approaching, the Greek cities held an emergency meeting. The weak and timid people always wanted to give in. But the spirit of a brave warrior as sharp as a thread did not allow him to do so. He wanted all Greece to stand up against the great army. However, connecting the rest is difficult. Because Sparta has always opposed Greek democracy. Understanding this, the swashbuckler poet personally went to Sparta to ask for help. He wanted the empress to open the door to his fleet of the world's most powerful battleships, but the empress was drunk because of the spa. I am determined not to sacrifice anything for Greece. After that, she ordered someone to close the door and release the dog? Mistakenly closing the door to welcome guests, poetry is about to ulcerate all the way. Only has to rush to build warships to oppose the powerful fleet of the central government and lead the fleet. That is the female general Artemisia, a woman famous for her cruelty and beauty. Gai Tam and her abilities are equally great. She Bok Tran Bok Thang continuously made great achievements, expanding the territory for the Persian Empire. It is no exaggeration to say that this is the most perfect goddess of war. Few people know that Artemisia is a child of Greece, but she hates this country and wants to raise it with her own hands. It turns out that as a child, she witnessed soldiers humiliate and kill her parents with her own eyes. And she was taken away and dazzled in a dark cabin. They turned her into a sex slave until it was no longer worth using, then threw it on the street like a pile of garbage. She was fortunately found by a Persian envoy while steaming her pillow at that moment. Artemisia saw that she would return and destroy all Greece and Persia. She was raised and trained with the best. She showed herself to be a martial arts prodigy when she was able to defeat them. Since then, Artemisia has been a nightmare for enemies on the other side of the line. With her victory in battle, she became a close female general next to the Persian king, Darius of Persia. Many years later, the king of Persia launched a war with Greece. But the long days at sea made the soldiers tired and reached the shore. They were defeated by Hoylak's army due to their sharp intelligence. The commander crouched, being attacked. Unexpectedly, the Persian army quickly suffered a heavy defeat. Seeing that the king of chili peppers was still standing on the battleship Themistocles, he came up with a bold idea. Mr. Nyat took the bow and shortened it to the king of feathers in front of the arrow, carrying the desire to win, and pinned it directly to King Darius. We helped him return, dear sister. What else is Lin fighting? The feathered king understood that beating in Greece was no different from suicide, so he called his son to consider giving up. However, Min Shah saw this as his good opportunity, so he directly pulled out the arrow. Let him die. After that, she used her old-fashioned beat dancing talent, arranged the idea of revenge, and summoned all the priests of the country to turn the crown prince into a different person. Stepping up from the swamp, Sin at first sight has completely changed from appearance to character. As soon as he became king, he stood before the people and began to wage war on Greece. But in fact, every word he said was because the goddess of war told him that he had become Artemisia's perfect puppet very quickly. The Persian army split into two directions to attack Greece, initially leading the infantry to confront 300 warriors. Ba Ta, and Artemisia, the commander of the Dark Fleet at sea, came to challenge the talent of Tmi, who was about to get cold. Although the navy was not the strong point of Greece, the fighting spirit of the spiritual people was very high. Faced with the great and numerous ships of Persia, they did not falter. Their weakness was the poetic slowness of the American poet, which led the warship to crash directly into the side of the enemy ship, causing the ships to break in half and sink deep into the sea. Just like that, many of the Persian ships that had not yet touched the land were permanently lying in the deep sea. Seeing that the situation was not good, Artemisia ordered to withdraw to preserve such numbers. Themistocles had her first victory, but the goddess of war couldn't swallow the level? Mistakenly angry in his heart, he ordered to put the iron in the hand of the general. Only record the last battle and throw it into the sea. Useless people have no right to live here. Mi was about to slip even though she won the first battle, but was still worried because the female general of the enemy had not yet joined the battle. Besides, he was just trying to hold out until Sparta's fleet came to support very quickly. The second naval battle took place right before the whip was struck on the slaves, also at the time when the ships of 34 families were in battle. This time they were led by a different leader. Because this is the home ground, so you have prepared in advance. He led the enemy troops into the thick fog that made them not know where they were going. Until they saw the way, they ate the cage. Ahead was a small strait that was welcoming the Persian army, which at that time they're already too deep to pull out. The Persian ships lost their brakes, and the Greeks were waiting for the Greek army when the head of the rear guy stuck directly into the ass of the front guy and we broke it on the cliff. They jumped into the enemy's battlefield and then freely slashed and killed, not sparing any father or son. The Persian army quickly dispersed under this fierce attack. The Tian general had just realized, had not yet sat warm, had to die in a foreign land. Just like that, the ejaculation? mistakenly for the second time. The Persians continued to wait for their friend Artemisia to know it was difficult. The security was no longer as overbearing as before. So they sent messengers to invite Miss to sit at the negotiating table. He followed the messenger and reached the beauty's boat. Here, she used her own beauty to fascinate the general in the hope that he could use Kai Hang's failed beauty, so she turned to use her own body. Of course, Hung is difficult to pass. Photo of Dao Lin beauty outside listening to the sound of pounding rice in the night, but restless heart can't sleep. Unexpectedly, the village of V. Soklet shoveled tons of coal and put it into Artemisia's damaged furnace, but still refused to surrender. Thus, this time she lost both her lead and her fishing rod. She angrily drew her sword to kill him, but soon, she was about to win. With her sword 21 centimeters below, the helpless goddess of war just let him go back to the barracks. His face looking like it was going to be 9 to 10 very fast. The Third Great War took place, thinking that using the old tactics would still be able to win. But after this time rammed into the enemy ship, but they were all too far away. How did it turn out? That cloudy night Artemisia had a good idea. That is to lubricate the sides of the boat. No matter what, it will slide to another place. Yesterday you stabbed me like a sewing machine, today it's my turn to stab you. She ordered a group of soldiers with oil tanks to jump into the sea. The poets from this side discovered that the sea surface was full of crude oil. This means that with just one spark, all Greeks will be grilled on the spot. He immediately ordered to shoot arrows to destroy the soldiers who were diving in the water, but it was too late. The army of suicide bombers approached the Greek boat. On the other side, the enemy was constantly throwing into the sea fireballs. The fire quickly covered the entire battle of Kang Mi Sok Lot, causing the entire army to suffer countless casualties. Artemisia did not want the Greeks to withdraw, so they fired a rocket at the bomb on the back of the suicide soldier Misk Lot. Seeing this, he told his brothers to abandon the boat. But it was too late. That bomb destroyed the ship, causing everyone to sink into the sea. Silkworm, Misa this time won a great victory and avenged the humiliation like a child. Coincident with the color of the eyelash ulcer. Thinking that the great merchant will die in the ocean, the god of the sea will not appear to save his life. Although still alive, but the army led by him has sacrificed most of the time right at this moment. The secret agent reporting about 393 we have failed at the blood gate of King Leonidas has been thoroughly examined and he is marching to after only one side of the city of Marathon has fallen. So no one will be able to stop her progress. The country guessed that his next target was a 10, so he immediately returned there. The humpback traitor Sabata was also present. He took the sword of King Lalai Dat and advised Tane then to surrender to the king of the gods, but with his sharp poetry, Lina Dat's death was not a failure. It was a bridge to rally the Greek city-states to stand against the army of death. Then he took the sword of Lu Idat and went to Sabavital to meet Queen Gogo, who was grieving the loss of her husband. Fragrant squirrel imploring, let her make an alliance with Greece as once again the queen refuses. And this side considers an Artemisia is drowning in victory when his name comes back to report that the ulcer is still alive. Tooth. He is still going to unite the cities in Greece to continue fighting. This makes Artemisia spicy even the pigtails. She decided to bring her troops to hunt with the Greeks and take her own head. I'm going to have an ulcer. The final great battle came as if it were too disparate in force when the Greek army only had 6 ships left. But had to face thousands of ships of the 34 Asian army who were very confident in the naval battle. Like this. But hey, even if you're about to ulcerate, you don't want to lose at the hands of a woman. He let his troops take the initiative to approach and attack first. As soon as the ships collided with each other, the warriors immediately rushed to the enemy side. Faced with the soldiers trained since childhood, the Persian soldiers were quick to respond neatly. Seeing that, Ata Min Ea also helped her grandfather along with his close bodyguards to fight, not ashamed of being the goddess of war. When she swings her sword, no one will die. The other side of the battle line was as sharp as his, riding his steed to the enemy ships and slashing them like bananas very quickly. Artemisia's defenders were neatly annihilated after reprimanding him after a few sentences. She immediately rushed to exchange French swords, one fighting for the freedom of the country, the other fighting to avenge her parents and herself. When he punched her profile picture, she was also a basic line on his leg. After a while of fierce intercourse, their swords were on each other's necks. At this moment, strange sounds resounded. The Empress finally led the Sbata fleet to battle, which was dubbed the most powerful fleet in the world at that time, so they quickly overwhelmed the Emperor's battleships. The 3 positions of the battle quickly reversed, causing the army of death to return with the arms of the god of death from above. Sun considered also predicted the outcome of this naval battle. On the day of sharp poetry, you have also defeated a Mi Xie. However, he still wants to give her a way of life if he surrenders, but with her personality, there is never a problem. Here, she quickly picked up the sword to fight, but was still shocked by Mi, ending with a fatal stab. The bloodthirsty goddess of war is officially selling salt after the crimes she has committed here. Queen Gogo and Geography appear with printed poetry about to end this war. The film is here to say hello and see